Let me bring back the. This is where we began, the first slide. And you'll have the PDF also to trace, but just because I'd forgotten to record right at the beginning. And then this was a thing about notation that IJKLMN ideally one uses for integers. Not a must, but. And then the example that we had discussed the other day, you have to show that there exist subsequences which converges to R, given any real number R. You can get a subsequence which converges to R. Okay. Now, at this point, I wanted to ask how many of you, even if not formally done, but at least somewhere you have a notion of what is countable sets and uncountable sets. And are there some who have no clue? And in which case, I'll try to spend some time about that. You can put on a chat window or you can speak.
Are these same as finite sets and infinite sets?
No.
The cardinality.
Cardinality. Finite and infinite.
No, both are infinite.
But within infinite, you have notions of rational and countable and going beyond countable.
Sir, I've had my school maths sir talk about how reals are uncountably infinite and naturals are countably infinite.
Okay. Anyone else? Are there some yeah?
Sorry. No, I said I know the definitions, but I'm not comfortable with how to deal with countable.
Okay. All right.
Like he said, if it is uncountably infinite, it might be like a straight line over the number line, but countably might be like points scattered all around, but like infinitely many points.
Okay. So perhaps most have kind of seen the definition, but could be uncomfortable in using that for doing anything. Okay. So let's spend some time. I will not formally prove it because we will need to prove first some other things also. But first of all, the set of all positive integers n. This is what is called countable. Okay. Now, even for countable, there are some people consider finite as also countable, and some people don't. So, if you want to be very specific, then we can say countably infinite and a finite. But typically, just using countable, unless it is a must to show that it is infinite and it doesn't work for finite sets, we can say countably infinite. But okay, so but we will use a countable in this sense of infinite set, which is countable. Now, so this natural numbers is the prototype of a countable set because you go 1, 2, 3, ... and that is what is called countable. In general, a set A is said to be countable if there exists a function f from n to a, which is 1, 1 on 2. So you can list out the elements of A as first, second, third, fourth, blah, blah, blah. Okay. So there exists a function. So 1, 1 on 2 means for every element here, there exists an element here. Distinct elements go to distinct elements here. Distinct elements in N go to distinct elements in A. That is 1, 1. And on 2 means every element of A is covered. So set A can be written as Fi I in N. As you vary I, you get the set A. So, and clearly, the set of set of even integers is countable. And what can you take the function f to be? Fn equal to 2n.
2n.
Yeah. So this is 1, 1 onto function from the set of natural numbers to positive even integers. Likewise, b odd integers. What will you take the function? Anyone?
2n minus 1.
2n minus 1. Yeah, one should not jump to 2n plus 1 because one element will get missed there. So 2n minus 1. Okay. And likewise, you can play around and create more examples of countable sets. And
sets of prime is countable or not?
which one? Set of
Primes.
Set of primes is countable because it's a
But we can't define a function.
Yeah, so function doesn't mean that you need to give a formula. Suffices to show that there exists such a function. So there are many techniques here. What you can say is that if you start with natural numbers, okay, and you take some subset thereof. If D is a subset of natural numbers, then either D is finite or D is countable. Okay. So these are subsets of all are subsets of real. So you can take the first element, you take the smaller, greatest lower bound, and you call that f of 1. Remove that. Then the next one you call f of 2, and you have to argue that this way you will exhaust it all. So mathematically writing these things may take some effort. So I'm not going to ask you to write down such proofs, but okay. These are either finite or countable. Now, in school in geometry or coordinate geometry, you would have done things like product of two sets, right? I mean, if x is an element of real numbers and x comma y, where x and y both in R, you take it as a point in the plane. So you are familiar with the index of taking, with the notation of taking x comma y. So if you have sets A and B, you can talk about A cross B . So you can talk about, this is called product of two sets. Product of the sets A and B. And the set n cross n is also countable. So on one hand, subsets of n, even numbers, odd integers, even integers are subsets, they remain countable. Not just that, you take product of n cross n, that is also countable. And the proof we have already done. Instead of an equal to j by I, you call an equal to I comma j. That's it. You change it to I comma j. It's not 1, 1, but it's on 2. Every element in the n cross n will be covered. So or you can do it that you define a function from n cross n to n by this formula. G of ij equal to this quantity. 1 by 2 I minus 1 plus j. It gives you a number, integer, positive, and you can show that this is 1, 1 on 2. Oh, not quite. Sorry. Anyway.
So I had a question.
Yeah, this is not 1, 1 on 2 from n cross n, but I'll try and write out another example, but we'll send you that. Yeah, question?
Yes, I wanted to ask, you said that 1, 1 and onto are required criteria, but so are there any functions which are onto but not 1, 1?
Okay.
And
okay, I'll answer that. So this is the definition, okay, and even if your function is not 1, 1 onto, as long as it is onto, okay, if there is a function f from n to a which is onto, that is still is still a countable set. It doesn't have to be 1, 1.
okay, thank you.
But onto is a requirement. If you remove onto, then it may not be countable. But because if it is a onto but not 1, 1, what you do is you generate a subset. So suppose as soon as you get one element, if the same occurs again, you remove that from. So you define a new set M. You look at F1 is you have taken that as the first one to take, so you include that one. Now, if F2 is different from F1, it is not already covered, then keep 2 also in M. If 2 is already covered, then remove that. Don't keep it. So M, you successively go and only add numbers which are not yet covered. That way, M will be a subset of N, and you will have a function which is 1, 1 on 2 from M to N, M to A. So we already talked about every subset of a countable set is also countable, etc. What I will do is I'll look up some source and send you some material about this way of dealing with countable, uncountable, and writing out proofs, at least of these quantities, that subsets of countable numbers are either finite or countable. Even if you have an onto function, that is enough for this, it is still countable. N cross n is countable. I will write down an explicit definition and send you, but okay.
Sir, does finite cardinality implies countability?
Finite cardinality, yeah. So see, as I said, the phrase countable is kind of differently used. Some people include finiteness in the definition of countable, okay, and some don't. If you include finiteness in the definition of countable sets, then you take f from n to a onto function, then it is countable, in which allows you then the finite sets also. Okay, so it depends on the definition taken in a book or a class. Okay, so for countable, there can be both can be included, and finite and countably infinite can be the distinction. And or countable can strictly mean countably infinite, and then finite is not included there. Depends on books. More common information usage is you allow countable also to be finite. So if you want to be specific, then you can say countably infinite if you really want that it is not finite. Okay.
Sir?
Yeah.
Sir, could there be an example of a set which is non-countable but is finite?
No, absolutely never. A finite set is always countable in this definition.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Because if you have a finite set, then you can do the, how many numbers are there? 1 to 1 million. Okay, then you just take that as a 1 to 1 million subset of n. And that will be 1, 1 onto to your function or your set, and then this is a subset of n. So,
Okay, sir. Got it.
so maybe some of you have seen this very interesting example or definition of how do you define an infinite set. So a set is said, this is one possible definition. A set is said to be infinite if there is a 1, 1 onto mapping from the given set to a strict subset. And the thing says,
Sir,
huh?
also, if we discard finite number of elements from the set, the attributes will be the same.
Yeah, there are 100 ways of defining, but this is one very interesting definition that if the set can be put into 1, 1 onto function from that set to a strict subset. And commonly it is written like this, that, you know, if you really have a hotel which has infinite rooms, then you can always engage a new person turns up. You will never be full. A new person turns up, take him to room number 1, tell the person in room number 1, sorry, we gave you this room wrong, well, we find another room for you. You take him out and add the new person in 1. Then you go to 2, and the person now with you, you put in number 2, the person from room from 2, you move to number 3, and so on and so forth. Obviously, physically, you can't have infinitely many rooms. Physically, you can't keep doing it infinitely often and so on. But that's one way of defining an infinite set.
Yes.
And countable or countable infinite will be if it is not finite. And then, yeah, Hilbert's hotel, etc. Yeah, it's called Hilbert's infinite hotel. Yeah. Yeah, there are videos. Yeah, I mean, lots of these. So,
Sir, can we have a bijection from set of rationals to the set of natural numbers?
yeah,
Positive rationals.
yeah. I can't immediately write down the construction, but yes, because one can show that a set of rationals is countable, and any two countable sets, you will have bijections. Any two countable infinite sets, there will be a bijection from one to the other. Yes.
So I don't understand how rational numbers countable.
How
Why
why rationals are countable?
Yeah.
Okay. So, if you go back to this example, okay, this is giving you rationals in the interval 0, 1, but if you use the same formula but don't require j to be less than equal to 1, okay.
Oh, okay, yeah, sir. Construct it like the triangular.
Yeah.
Okay.
But earlier you were just stopping here, but now you write this as for every j, okay. So that first you have to prove n and n cross n are 1, 1 on 2, and then from there you move to that it is a rationals. Okay. So as I said, I will either send you a reference to a book or some other write-up somewhere where you can do this. So I'm not going to ask you any question about rational, irrational, etc. But something which is good to know, because it will be used left and right in various other courses also. Okay. And after I send some material to read, if you still have questions, we can spend more time talking about them. Okay. But
Yes.
speaking, numbers which you can put on 1, 1 onto correspondence with natural numbers are countable infinite. Finite sets is another way of calling finite sets. Finite, countable infinite, and anything else is uncountable. Okay. And the first example of a number which is not countable is the set of real numbers. The real numbers in the unit interval, one can show that they are not countable. And some of you may have seen such proofs. After we do infinite series and their limits, which is soon, next topic. After that, I will come to proving that the set of real numbers is not countable. But some of you would have seen that if it is countable, then there is a 1-1-1-2 mapping between natural numbers and real, I mean, the rational, positive rationals and real numbers. And you can construct one more number which is real, but it is not in your list by just tweaking decimal expansions and so on and so forth. So if you have not seen this, don't worry, we will do that later. Okay. So that is an example that one. So the set of real, even real numbers in unit interval are not countable. That one can, we will prove a proof. We'll give a proof of that after we prove, after we write down the notion of limit of a series or and decimal expansions, limit of series, etc. So, you know, some things which are used a lot. So, for example, set theory or notations used in set theory, unions of A union B, A intersection B, etc. What do you mean by set? What do you mean by product of two sets? So these are very basic things which you should know. Countable, uncountable is another thing which is kind of assumed in the courses, but I thought it's best that I introduce them, discuss a little bit, send you some material, and if you're still not comfortable, tell us, we'll try to arrange it in a session. Okay. If, let's say, half of you say that we are very comfortable and about the remaining half say, no, sir, we would like to spend some time, we need not do it in one class here. We'll have another time slot drawn. Okay. The main thing is you should not, at the end of the semester, you should say that, sir, you didn't understand this technique. And, you know, now you are at a loss because you don't know what to do. Okay. Never ever hesitate to say that you have not understood it. Okay. We'll find a way of how to handle that. Either in your TAs can do it in a session, I can do it, or somebody else can do it, whatever. All right. So now, so we have talked about sequences and spent a lot of time talking about sequences. Now we want to start talking about infinite series today. And as I had mentioned, historically, the series came up earlier, and then to formally write various proofs, they found that introducing the notion of sequence is much better. So something snapped on my iPad. It will come in a minute. Yeah. So you all know this geometric series. 1 plus r square plus dot dot dot. And r is a number between 0 and 1.
Sorry, sir, but could you just use a darker pen, please?
Sorry.
Could you use a darker pen, please?
Okay. All right. Is this better? Yeah, green is perhaps bad. So 1 plus r square plus dot dot dot, where 0 is less than r less than 1. Okay. So dot 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 is like an infinite series, and this is what is called geometric series, and you would have seen, you would have done in school and calculations and exams and so on, that it is 1 over 1 minus r is the, this adds up to, right? And so this was something goes back in history. People had discovered this, used this left and right. Now we want to now bring it in a formal definition way. And some of you would have seen that how to write the proof that this is 1 over 1 minus r. Right, s to be this, right? R times s to be, now it is r plus r square plus did. And now you write therefore s minus r times s equal to, and you said that you are subtracting the second line from the first, and you can pair them like this. So all the terms other than the first term will get lost, and therefore s minus rs is equal to 1, and therefore s is equal to 1 by 1 minus r. I'm sure some of you would have seen such a proof. Now the question is this always true for all r? What I wrote down did not use r, any property about r. For example, with r equal to 2 also we can do the same thing. 1 plus 2 plus 4 like this, multiply by 2, you will get 2 plus 4, etc. Cancel them, and you got 1.
We are assuming implicitly that the series is converging in either case.
Yeah. So,
sir, that bracketing is actually not valid in infinite series case.
Yes. So, but what is valid, what is not valid? To prove all that, we have to know mathematically how do we define convergence of this series. Okay. Without doing that, we can't say this is valid, this is not valid, because that's where the problems arose.
Yes.
Okay. And what we are going to show is we are first going to come up with a formal notion of what do we mean by infinite series, the sum of an infinite series. Then we will show that this argument is valid for r less than 1, r between actually minus 1 and 1, it is valid, and not valid for other r's. Okay. So we definitely need a formal definition of what we mean by sum of an infinite series. Okay. So I'm sure all of you would have seen that this is valid. This argument is valid only for r between minus 1 and 1 or 0 and 1. And otherwise it is not valid. You would have been told that, okay, you can't do this, you can't do that. But this is only a matter of, there was no formal, since there was no formal way of mathematically proving something, there was no formal way of saying that this works only for r less than 1. Now I'm sitting there. There is no blank space here. So give me a minute, I will create more blank space. Okay. Next time before, I will ensure that I have more blank spaces on that day's lecture notes, but I will write a suitable note and present this to you. Okay. So the question is the following. So you are given now, you want to define what do you mean by limit of a, I mean, by definition, defining sum of an infinite series. It may exist, may not exist. So the starting point is you have a A1, A2, etc. A sequence AN, and we want to say when does this make sense? Summation n equal to 1 to infinity AN. What do we mean by this? Okay.
Limit of the sum. I mean, the sum is the sequence, and that is
So
limit of that.
So this is the technical way of doing it. You sum the series finitely many times, k equal to 1 to n ak. Take finitely many numbers, take their sum. Okay. And now you say that if, so now this is the sequence of partial sums, Sn. And you say that if Sn converges, then we define summation an equal to 1 to infinity d alpha. You see this? So you are given a sequence of numbers. You want to define the infinite sum of that. It may not be definable, but so you take partial sums up to k equal to 1 to n. So that way you generate now a new sequence, the sequence of partial sums. And if that sequence converges, then we say that the infinite series is convergent. Otherwise, it is not defined. That is the definition. Now, when we do this, first thing we have to give is start with examples. So, if an is such that an is greater than or equal to 0. So start with series of positive numbers, non-negative numbers. Okay. Now, what can we say about these partial sums? Sn plus 1 is greater than or equal to Sn. So partial sums is a sequence which is monotone. N plus 1, you take first 10 elements, you have added the n plus first element. N plus first element is non-negative. So either you have added 0, then you have not changed. If you have added something positive, you have gone up. So this is a monotone sequence. Now, what can happen to a monotone sequence? It can either go away to infinity or it is bounded. If it is bounded, then it converges. We have done that. Every bounded monotone sequence converges. So, in our mind now, the sequence we are talking about is not an. Though we start with the sequence an, we have taken its partial sums. That gives you a new sequence. And now we are talking about that new sequence being bounded or not. If it is bounded, then it converges. And if it is not bounded, then it cannot converge because you cannot be getting close to any number. You are keep increasing indefinitely. So we will therefore get that partial sum sequence is bounded above, then the limit is summation infinite sum is defined. So this is the condition, that the sum of partial sums should remain bounded. Okay. And I'm sure somewhere you would have seen examples that ak equal to 1 by k square converges. Whereas if you take ak to be 1 over k, no, it doesn't converge. Right? You all would have seen this, that summation, if you take summation 1 over k equal to 1 to infinity, that cannot be finite.
In fact, zeta is greater than 1 converges.
Yeah, a lot more you would have done. So what is the main thing to look at is that that 1 over k if you take, then it doesn't converge. Anything above 1, if you take power, it will work. Even if it is not 2, but anything else also it will work. But we'll see that. Okay. So our first discussion on infinite series is that of non-negative elements, and we have concluded that there are only two possibilities. Either that summation, if the partial sums are bounded above, then it converges. Otherwise, no. And if such a m does not exist, in some authors or some books, they will define this infinite series to be equal to infinity. In which case they will say that the summation, if you have a non-negative entries, then summation an k, summation ak k equal to n equal to 1 to infinity, summation n is always defined. It is infinity or it's a finite number. So either it converges to a finite number or it diverges to infinity. Now this terminology, let's not put too much focus. Okay. So the non-negative entries is the easiest one to settle. Either the summation ak is defined and is a finite number, or summation ak cannot be defined and it kind of keeps increasing. These are the only two possibilities. All right, now, any question?
So summation 1 by k is bounded, is unbounded. How to prove that?
Summation 1 by k is unbounded. How to prove that? All right.
And 1 by k squared is bounded. How to prove that? First one works. Second one will get an idea how to do this.
Okay. So let's see. So we want to show that if you take Sn to be summation k equal to 1 to n 1 over k, want to show it is not bounded. Okay. So to show given a m, there exists a n such that Sn is strictly bigger than. If I show this, then it follows that this is unbounded. Correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. So now, first thing is this m may or may not be integer. M could be, I have written this letter m, but it could be integer, it could not be. So pick integer. If it was already integer, I'll take m plus 1. And now we'll try to show this. Okay, so and m star to be an integer. Now, positive integer. Now, the idea is the following, that you 1 over k so this one you keep 1. This you keep. The next two elements, half and 1/3, you add them up and you take both of them to be 1/3. Maybe it is better to keep this as it is. These two, these four, each of them you put it as 1/8, 1/8, 1/8, 1/8. Okay. So what am I doing? You are looking at successive powers of 2. So this is the power of 2. This is the next power of 2. This is the next power of 2, and so on. So firstly, you mark the successive powers of 2. Okay. And then for everything in between, you take the smaller value. Okay. So from our given sequence, this was our given sequence AN.
Shouldn't it be half, half, and then 1/4, 1/4, 1/4, 1/4?
No, I don't want to increase, I want to decrease.
It just would be bounded below by 1 plus n by 2 sequence.
See, it is not, you can write the proof in many different ways. Okay.
Okay.
So there would be alternate ways of construction, no problem. I could have just taken 1/3, 1/3, and then written the problem also, right?
No, from here on it follows that.
So we have to construct one proof which will show. So main point was to get a smaller sequence. Okay, so the way we have written, it is very clear that if I write En is equal to some k equal to 1 to n dk, then Sn is bigger than equal to Tn, right? Because term by term we have reduced and we have only added infinitely many terms. So it is clear that Sn is greater than equal to Tn. And now Tn, at least when n is equal to 2 power m minus, yeah, for every power of 2, you can write down what exactly is the sum of elements up to that. These 4, each of them is 8, and therefore each one is equal to half. This each one is a half, this is a half, and so on. So you can write down explicitly what is Tn when n is equal to 2 power m. And it is going to be 1 plus m by 2. So given a number capital M star, you can always choose a number little m so that 1 plus m by 2 is bigger than capital star. And so we have shown that we can pick a number n so that Tn is bigger than equal to m star, and therefore we can pick an n so that Sn itself is bigger than equal to m star. Okay. do we sought to use sandwich theorem? Yeah, but that theorem you need to prove. We are starting by proving it first, okay? We have just defined and we are making it this. So, but to state and prove the sandwich theorem, you will need to write down proofs also, yeah. It can be done using sandwich theorem, yes. So, in the process, what we have shown is actually what he calls the sandwich theorem, which is the following. That so if summation AK is convergent, defined and finite, then so is as a consequence. If this is not true, if summation BK cannot be defined, then this is also not defined. This can be called the sandwich theorem. Okay. So the so convergence, positive integers convergence handling is much easier. Positive numbers convergence handling is much easier because you basically need to only decide whether or not summation is going to be finite or infinite. Is it, if, as you keep taking summations, are you going to cross every number or is there some other choice? If you don't cross every number, then it better converge. Somewhere where it converges, you figure out. Okay. The complication is with positive when we want to do with how to deal with in general, where A need not be positive. Here, lot of this is sometimes called can of worms. So, all kinds of possibilities arise. So, the definition is still the same. Convergence means the same thing for us. If you take Sn summation k equal to 1 to n ak, if Sn, the sequence Sn converges, sequence of partial sum converges, then we say that this infinite series is defined and is equal to that. And perhaps all of you have seen somewhere or the other 1 minus half plus 1/3 minus 1/4 ... or it could begin with half minus 1/3 plus 1/4 plus ... This is a typical thing of what is called an alternating series. So you have a sequence which is alpha n, which is decreasing, and you define an to be minus 1 to the power n alpha n. You can take n plus 1, depends on whether the first one has to be positive or negative, doesn't matter. Yes. "15 minutes, Ravi." my class going on. So this is what is called alternating series, and interesting result is that if you have a alternating series where the absolute if you remove the sign, the other part is decreasing, then this series always is converging.
So what is alpha n here?
Sorry?
What is alpha n?
So,
and how is it decreasing?
for this example, in this example, alpha n is
Yeah,
1.
yeah.
Alpha n is 1 over n in this example.
So can you repeat what you said about it converging always?
Yeah. So if you have some sequence of numbers alpha n non-negative, okay, and if they are decreasing, okay, then if an is defined as alpha n and alternately given plus sign minus sign, then summation an is convergent.
Got it, sir. Thank you.
Okay. And this is extremely interesting result. You would have, did you come across any example of this 1 minus half plus 1/3 minus 1/4, etc. anywhere?
Sir, could you just repeat the part what you said in the last part once
Okay.
again?
I will write it with different notation here. Okay. Suppose an is equal to -1 to the power n plus 1 mod an, where okay. So on one hand, in absolute values, the terms are decreasing, and you are alternately plus 1 minus 1 plus 1 minus 1, etc. Okay. Then summation ak converges. That is the statement.
But sir, even if like the limit of, let's say, the absolute values of an is not 0, it converges also. Like I thought that would have to be a condition, right?
Yeah. Decrease where this is this, and you are right. I missed stating that. I would have, when I tried to write the proof, I would have come across that, but thanks for pointing it out. Where this is this, and mod an converges to 0, then if you take just plus 1 minus 1, there is no way it is going to converge.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks for pointing it out. I said I can always say that I'm making these tests just to see if you are listening to me or not, but no, this was a genuine goof up by me. I forgot to mention an going to 0. Okay. ln2, probably it is, somebody is asking, Amit is asking, is this ln2? Probably it is, but I don't, things which I don't use left and right, they are not in my memory. Okay. But probably what you have written is true. That is log 2. But the proof itself is very interesting. Some of you may have seen the proof, but so the thing goes in two different ways. So if you look at an even integer, what you can do is you can write a1 minus a2 plus a3 minus a4 and so on, and last one will also be, and you let us call this b1, B2 dot 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 up to Bn. Okay. What happens? Each of this is a positive number because ANs are decreasing. Each of them is a positive number. And so, and S2n is sum of B1 plus B2 plus Bn. As yet, we don't know whether this is going bounded or not. So we have only two possibilities, that S2n can be blowing off to infinity, or S2n will converge to a finite quantity because it's a sum of infinite numbers. Now, I can call this as A1 minus yeah. Okay, so there is a A1 and then you are subtracting A1, A2, C1, C2, etc., etc. Each Ci is a positive number. So what we get is that S2n is B1 plus B2 plus Bn, and S2n plus 1 is equal to A1 minus C1 plus C2 plus up to each of these is two things at a time. Okay. So now comes a crucial question. What is
So it is 2n plus 1, right?
right? That is 2n plus 1. And I would have discovered that here that I actually need to use that S2n plus 1 converges to 0. So so first thing we have to rule out the possibility that if S2n converges to infinity, okay, but S2n plus 1 is going to be less than equal to A1 because it is A1 minus some positive quantity. So A1, B1 plus B2 plus Bn cannot be blowing off to infinity. Or separately, we can write down that it's up. A1 is its upper bound using this. A1 plus that something is a bound. So these three facts using together, we can argue that S2n is bounded. And it's bounded, so it must converge. And then we can say that therefore S2n plus 1 also converges to the same quantity.
Sir, so can we just say now the sequence S is Cauchy, so it's done?
Well, yeah,
You can't really do that because you apply the same argument to the harmonic series also, right? You'll see you can say that,
No,
oh, you know what, the difference of it is 1 over n, it converges, but that's not the case, right?
No,
I mean,
if difference of two consecutive ones, so for Cauchy sequence, you need difference of any two, not just the consecutive ones.
Oh, right. Yeah.
So better not to, because Cauchy will need to another proof what all terms are missing, going, etc., etc. So best is to first show that the odd even ones are converging, by ruling out the possibility that it is infinite, and then use other things to show that the odd ones are also converging to the same quantity. Okay. Done. So,
Yeah, okay.
So I have not written the proof carefully, but I have explained to you how to do it. Okay, that alternating series where the nth term is going to 0 converges. So, and the last thing which I will not, I don't have time, but I can leave it to you as an exercise, is that if so AN is now, I'm taking away this alternating series and so on and so forth. AN is just some sequence of numbers. Earlier, we had kind of observed this when we had also said ANs are positive. But this you can observe yourself that if summation Bn is finite, where Bns are non-negative, and absolute AN is less than or equal to Bn, then summation AN also converges. This is something for you to think about. Okay, I see a doubt. I have a doubt. Okay, time is up. Those who have to rush for another class, you can go. And Amit, if you have to also go, I can resume. Just send me this as a mail and I will take it up next class. Otherwise, if you hang around, then I'll let me see. I'm talking about this. In this, I am taking even part and
Sir, is there a name for this theorem?
which theorem?
And the result you have in the last.
Last. Maybe there is a name. I don't know the name. Okay. But you try to write out a proof. So the main thing is that non-negative in numbers, the infinite series is straight away to handle. Either it can blow off to infinity or finite. Alternating series is one thing we have done, and this is the other one. Okay. Next class is at 2. Okay, so I can continue now. Okay. Now let me see what is your I am taking. See, first of all, the problem is in adding up to plus dot dot dot. If you write in terms of sum up to n terms, you will see where is the flaw in your argument. You never do addition this, that by adding dot dot dot. Okay. You get my point?
Sir, actually, I am taking s is equal to 1 plus 1 by 2 plus 1 by 3 till infinite. Of course, it is infinite, but later taking it is any.
I'm fine. I'm just finishing my class. Yeah. So once again, sorry.
Sir, I assume that 1 plus 1 by 2 plus 1 by 3 till infinite is taking s. Of course, it is infinite, but
it's an infinite number. You can't do these tricks there. So main thing is all the addition, multiplication, you do this, you do that. All that works only with finite numbers. If you bring in infinity, then I can prove anything I want. Okay.
Okay, sir.
So it's not any time when you write plus dot dot dot, you have to give a meaning to what exactly you mean. Okay. All right. So that is the real problem. So with infinite numbers, so some initial thing was to discard saying that 1 plus half plus 1/3, etc., etc.
Sir, one more thing.
Yeah.
Sir, is 1 plus 1 by 3 plus 1 by 5 till infinite is equal to 1 by 2 plus 1 by 4 plus 1 by 6 plus 1 by 8 plus till infinite?
See, likewise, if you say, I can't immediately say it is true or not. Okay. What is your question?
Sir, my question is means reciprocal sum of HP of the summation 1 by 2 1 plus 1 is equal to summation of 1 by 2 1. Is it true?
See, I cannot understand exactly what you say unless you write down. So you send me your question in an email. Okay.
Okay, sir, I will send.
No, but one thing is that this tricks of doing such things, you have to be very careful. You don't ever do plus dot dot dot. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Till you are sure as to which is valid and which is not valid, you don't do dot dot dot. Okay. Then you will not make errors. But this way you can prove all kinds of weird things. Okay. Yeah. Anyone else? Any question?
Sir,
Yeah.
in the proof of the alternating sequence thing, I think I didn't get the last line after which you said. Like the S2n plus 1 minus S2n is A2n.
Okay. So no, so A2n plus 1 minus S2n is A2n plus 1. That you got, right?
Yes, sir.
All right. So therefore, we can get that S2n. So this maybe S2n is less than or equal to 2 times S1 is something which we will get. Because absolute values are decreasing. So A2n plus 1 is also less than A1. So S2n, take this side, this side, etc., and you will get that S2n is less than or equal to 2 times A1. So S2n is bounded above.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right. Anything else? All right, then we'll stop and we'll resume on Friday. Okay.
Thank you, sir.
All right.